So here's the topic.
Topic
No,
of the
first
day.
let me first introduce us. Let us first
Oh,
do let us first do this.
she's not even going to tell me the topic before she
No, I'm
introduces
gonna
us. Go.
spring it on you.
I'm just going to
Welcome to
spring it on me. All
Pros.
right.
Welcome to Pros Talking Prose. This is Stacey, the absolute scatterbrained, and then there's Troy, the illustrious. And we are going to talk about a surprise topic today because honestly, this is how I feel right now. I'm just every client that calls me right now, every friend, every family member, the first thing out of my mouth is, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Because all the balls, all the plates, everything, every analogy you want to use, it's all dropping. And this is the worst time of the year. But the good news is today was the deadline, and I am like, after today, I am free. I can breathe.
Oh,
So
so
thanks to
excited.
Troy and to my other team members for helping me this season, because I seriously think I would have died if I didn't have you guys. But anyway, so what we're going to talk about today is something that I was thinking about earlier today, after, all of these talks we've been having lately and all these like kind of heavy topics. And it was something that I talked about years ago with another editor here locally, but it was actually one of the most popular videos that I've ever had. And I'm wondering if it's something that we should talk about again, because I think people are curious and there's many things that have changed. So are you ready? Let's talk
Hmm.
about how you vet team members, namely editors, and what you're
Oh,
looking for when you're hiring people to be part of your indie publishing team. I think we need to talk about like some of these things that we want people to be aware of and how to actually, and what kind of like character traits and ways to vet those team members. Because I think a lot of people get out there and they think, well, so and so referred me, or so and so told me this, or Google told me this. And then, or you do the one thing that you should never do, and that's just Google and then use the first name that comes up. Um, I
hmm.
think that there are some things that people need to be aware of when they come, when they kind of break down who they want to bring on board as their team member. So I think that's what we should talk about today, Troy. Do you think
Oh,
that's a
that
good one?
is
I think it's
that is a
also
good topic
I think it's
because
also
it's
good. We're going into Author Nation. Let's plug some Author Nation and those pros that are going to be there as
oh
well.
yes. Well, and
And
this is one way you can vet people
yeah,
is let somebody else vet them for you.
yeah.
So, okay.
Let's break
I'm
it
just going to
down.
jump right in. I'm just going to
Go.
jump right in.
Okay.
Okay. Because the first thing I'm going to jump into is you want a professional on your team who knows what you're doing. That doesn't mean that you can't give someone who's starting out a chance, but you
Right.
need to know what you're looking for enough to know. So if you are a relatively new debut author, giving your friend who maybe someday wants to start an editing business a chance of having them edit your first novel is probably not the best match for you. And the reason is because you're new and they're new. So both of you don't know things that you will learn only through experience. So it, it's just a kind of a bad
Let
match.
me
You
tell a
want to
story
hire a
because
pro. Oh
you want
yeah,
to hire a
tell a
pro,
story
because I'm
and
going
then
to
I'll
throw a
tell one
story
after
because
that.
this is so
Yes.
good. So that's my first job, guys. This was my first job. Um, I was helping the just the amazing, mysterious, and wonderful Michael Brent Collins at a Comic-Con one year. I knew his mom, and it was the first time I ever really got to hang out with Michael Brent in person. And love the guy, by the way. If you ever want to check out some fun books, go read his. But anyway, Michael Brent and I were hanging out, and Michael Brent likes to take some breaks and go to the green room on occasion. And I was fangirling all over the guy. But one such instance happened. I had not yet graduated from college. I had not yet had any credentials. I didn't even have my business card printed, but I knew what I was going to do. I just hadn't said it out loud to the world yet. And so I'm sitting there at the table, this lurky, lurpy little dude, very slimy little character, comes up to the table and starts goading Michael Brent. Bad idea. Michael Brent's not easily shaken. But anyway, he goads him a little bit and says, well, I bet you haven't even won a Bram Stoker. And of course, Michael Brent at that point had said, well, I was nominated for 4. So, and
Yeah.
then I had the audacity to stand up from behind the table, look at this little slimy dude and go, boom, in your face, loser. And the guy was like taken aback and didn't know how to take me because, of course, I'm an obnoxious little brat. And I guess I competed against his obnoxiousness. Anyway, the little jerk kind of followed us the rest of the day. And he was like kind of like lurking. And at one point, he pulls me away from Michael Brent and says, what do you do? And I was cornered, folks. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do, but I looked at him in the eyeballs and I said confidently, I'm an editor. Never having professionally edited a book before. And the guy goes, oh my gosh, grabs my shoulders and says, I need you. I have 3 books that I just would love to self-publish. And I literally panicked. I said, no, sorry, haven't even figured out how I'm going to do this yet. Not taking clients, haven't even graduated yet. I'm busy. I've got another semester of school. Not interested. The guy literally was begging me. He says, I'll do anything. And I kind of, being my entrepreneur spirit, lit up a little bit. I thought, okay, I'm going to need a guinea pig here. And if he's willing to be a guinea pig and I can practice some of my SOPs on him and I'll know how I want to do things. Sure enough, he was willing to take the chance on me and I took a chance on him. And we kind of now that relationship eventually paid off because I was able to build on that. But really, and for the first client, if he wasn't as lazy, that's the word I'm going to come up with. If he wasn't as lazy and as just downright slimy as he was, I wouldn't have gotten away with a lot of the stuff that I did. I was a lousy editor, folks. That was my first project. And I keep those books, by the way. They're on my bookshelf down at the very bottom for a reason, but I keep them to remind me of how far I've come. And also it was a very good crash course in what not to do. And I learned by doing those books how I wanted to run my business. And so there were a lot of mistakes made. Honestly, folks, if I could go back and redo the whole thing, I think I would still say do it that way still, because that's the way I stumbled onto my system and how I learned how to do this business for my clients and what authors really needed. But ultimately it took a lot of mistakes. And luckily this guy let me make all those mistakes on him. And luckily he really, he's such a sleazeball anyway. I don't have any guilt about it. But there were some other folks in the process that were kind of brought into my system along the way that I wish I could go back and redo. And I know that we all do that, right? Even Stephen King even said that he wanted to go back and do, the Dark Towers. And when he did, everybody was mad at him about it. But, it's one of those things, we tell authors move on for a reason. It's because we want you to build on the knowledge that you have. That was one of the things that I did. But my advice always, because of that story, is because I know what kind of editor I was. If somebody comes to me and says, I have this next door neighbor who really wants to be an editor and she was thinking she could edit my book. And my first reaction is always, no, stop, don't do it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's hard because if somebody's an experienced author, they might be able to give a newbie editor a chance and
a
even
chance.
mentor them to a certain
A
extent
little
along
bit,
the
yeah.
way
Mm-hmm.
of like, here's some things, and there's less likely to be amateur type mistakes. But there's also the thing of sometimes a new author and a new editor is a relatively good match because the new author makes newbie author mistakes, which are really obvious even to new editors. And so
Mm-hmm.
they can fix those things because it's about a combination between the author and the editor, right? It's about the combo between those two in the relationship. But like my one of my very first editors was for anything I did indie was absolutely terrible. But I didn't know that she was terrible because I thought, well, this is okay. Well, then once I got that first novel back, I went, this is actually like I had to do a lot of work. And I thought, this is really weird. Like I thought she would do way more. Right. And it turned out that this person was not only a bad editor, but that she had scammed a couple of publishers into hiring her to do some of their work too.
Oh
They had found her work
no.
deficient. And so when there was some
Mm.
kind of a feud that we got into on some kind of a author forum, I don't remember which one it was back then or whatever, and they saw that her name was associated with my book, and the publishers contacted me and said, hey, did you have the same experience that we did? And I said, yes, actually I did, and I really regret it, and that type of thing. So it was just not a good fit all the way around, and it made me do a bunch of work, but it was good for me in some ways, where I was in my author career, to help me understand, first of all, what I wanted from an editor, but also to go back and do revisions in a more thorough
Right.
way.
Right.
So it worked, right? It wasn't wonderful, but it worked. But anyway, so all that being said, the thing that I started to say before we went off on this tangent, but although the examples are a good tangent, is
Yeah.
that you can let somebody else vet people for you. So there are conferences like Author Nation and NINC and professional level conferences. Now, I'm not
Like
talking about just your
ACEs,
average local
EFA.
conference or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but ACEs and EFA, so national organizations, conferences that vet their speakers and people before they're allowed to come and present and be on stage and things like that. Those are people that can vet editors for you. Like
Mm-hmm.
they make sure ahead of time that they're a professional before they ever get a chance to look at your stuff, before they ever, you know what I mean, before it ever gets to the point where it's like, ooh, that's bad. So that's just a heads up is there you can find places now. Oh man, I don't even know if I want to say it out loud, but I do anyway. Okay, Reedsy
Yeah. I knew
Marketplace.
you were gonna say that.
Here's the thing. To a certain extent, they give editors tests
Mm-hmm.
that
They vet us based on
show.
our. They don't really give us tests. They because I'm vetted on Reedsy. What they do is they check your repertoire. You have to be in business for so long, and you have to have
Mhm,
so many books that are published on Amazon with 5-star reviews, 4-star, 5-star
mhm,
reviews. So you have to have like that kind of thing going for you. So to go on to Reedsy, and I will tell you, I barely got on there because the very first year I started in business, probably the second year, I was like, ooh, I want to go on Reedsy and I want to be one of their editors. And so I went on there and I didn't qualify. They said, no, you're not ready. And so I was like, oh crap. Okay. So I knew I needed some more years behind me. So then a couple years ago, like right around the time COVID hit, I remember thinking, oh my gosh, business is going to get slow. I'm going to need to like reach out into other marketplaces. And so I put myself on Reedsy, and that process was, well, it was okay. I will say that even though I got put on that platform, I don't like to keep my calendar open. So by the way, you can go on there and you can probably see my profile, but you won't be able to access me because I keep myself busy. I block off my calendar on there. And there's some reasons, and I'll talk about that in another, point. But the vetting there is probably a little more, I guess, um valuable than, say, just being with EFA. Because even though
Yeah.
I'm with EFA, I just pay a fee and then they put me in their
Right. You just
catalog.
pay dues. You pay
Mm-hmm.
dues.
And same
So,
with
I mean,
ACEs.
and I mean, that does help because it does, the financial aspect locks some people out. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going to pay dues or
Right.
whatever to organizations. And there's a certain amount of education that usually happens within those organizations. And even though it's not
Yeah.
mandatory, if you're a member of an organization, typically you're going to take advantage of at least some of the education that they offer. At least we hope
Right.
so,
Right.
right? That type of thing. But Readsy, so I've heard people get good and bad things about it. And the reason is
Mm-hmm.
Readsy is evaluating you on the quality of your edits to a certain extent. And they've got some criteria for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't vet is your business practices.
Right.
So there are some shady people that have made their way
Mm-hmm.
onto Readsy, and I have heard some horror
Me
stories
too.
about people who have used that marketplace. So you need to be, regardless of who vets your editor for you, you need to be smart about it. I like Readsy as far as a platform, as a company. I
Mm-hmm.
like them as far as a lot of the things that they do, but I will tell you to just, you need to use caution with everything, even with an organization like that, even with EFA and ACEs, exactly like you're talking about. The biggest issue is that people sometimes, editors, and Nick Nelson and I of Wordsmith Writing Coaches and I did a thing this summer where we talked about this, where editors are really good at editing a lot of times, but not really good at the business side of things and running things as a business. And that can hurt you as an author because you don't know what you're paying for. You don't know what you're getting. There's no
Mm-hmm.
contract. If they make mistakes, you don't really have a way to go back and, take care of that in any way or
Right.
whatever. They don't have a customer service path. They don't have any guarantees, that type of thing where that's really what you need is someone who says, hey, if you find a typo in your book, you know 3 months later, like you got three revisions or whatever, that I'll go back in and make sure that your typos are taken care of, or whatever the case may be. Some kind of a guarantee, some kind of a redress that you can do. So anyway, so that's the other aspect of, as far as editors, but all this also applies to when we talk about overall your book team, book cover designers, formatters, all that kind of stuff. Is that all of those people that you hire, it's the exact same rules. Is like you need to vet them and make sure they know what they're doing. If they say, I'm a formatter, go, can I have links to a few books that you have formatted? Or can I see a few examples of your formatting? And the reason is, I want to see if you can actually do what you say you can do,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're back.
So anyway, so yeah, I completely get what you're, saying, because I think that well, I love these platforms for certain reasons. Like I said, I'm a member of ACEs, I'm a member of EFA. And yes, there are some benefits to that. There's some credibility that comes with that. But at the same time, it doesn't guarantee that I'm going to be the right person. So one of the things that I wanted to point out here is, one, that vetting your editor isn't just one, word of mouth. It isn't just that they want to be an editor. It isn't just that, oh, I've edited a couple books, even, because sometimes, I mean, you can look and you can see, and you could be willing to give them a break, or like even a try to see if they're a good fit for you. It wasn't until we sat down with I can't remember her name. She was at the conference a couple years back. She had the fox as her
Oh,
do you know who I'm talking about? She
yeah,
had
I
a
know who you're talking about, but I can't think of the name right now. It'll come to me
anyway,
as soon as we're not
I
talking
can't,
about it.
yeah, as soon as we're not talking about her. She was an amazing editor. I loved her. She was really sweet. I think she's from Texas or something. But anyway, great gal. She was there the first year I met Claire. And anyway, one of the things that she said was very, very interesting, and it's kind of stuck with me. And that is, when you're vetting editors, you need to know that picking somebody that works with not only your personality, but that works with the level of professionalism that you want to exemplify
Yes.
and put out with your book. So, I mean, you can have a beginning Stacey and put out a decent book. Some of the books that I put out in the beginning, they're pretty decent. They actually did pretty good. Some of the clients that were very, very, very happy with the books and thought that I brought the level of their editing up 100-fold. What's interesting about that now is that this 10 years later Stacey is a much different Stacey, and I look back at those books and go, that
Hmm.
was a crappy editor. so
Yeah.
so vetting me now as opposed to vetting me then is totally different. It's a totally different thing, but I also I edit different books now than I did then. It's
Hmm.
kind of like fitting yourself in a puzzle and knowing how that's best going to fit with your project.
Right.
So I guess the very first thing you need to do when you're vetting an editor is you need to understand what kind of editor you need. There are a lot of
Hmm.
editors out there. So Troy, let's talk about the different types of editors out there and how to approach their processes and understanding. I don't know if it feels like my internet is laggy because I keep seeing myself break. So I hope it's not messing up
Yeah.
my.
It's not too bad, I don't think.
Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to point out is, and we can talk about this, is that the way we approach edits nowadays as opposed to when we approached edits before, and how
Hmm.
some editors have not yet come up to that way of working and what that could cost authors. So let's first talk about the different types of editors, the different types of editing services out there.
Oh, my goodness. So there are editors that will tell you they do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's okay sometimes. But usually you want someone who's a specialist. And because usually people specialize in certain types of editing and then a lot of times certain genres. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason is, so they'll have certain genres that they don't do. And the reason is specialty makes you really, really good at one thing. Like niching down makes you really, really good at one thing. If you're really broad, what happens is you don't have the depth in certain areas. So for beginner writers, a lot of times that doesn't matter. What you really
Right.
want is the grammar and punctuation stuff to be correct in your mystery. And as long as it's a pretty good story and has a pretty good puzzle, you're okay. Right. But
Right.
when you reach a certain level of professionalism, you want deeper because you're not making those surface level mistakes anymore. So you have to have somebody that can find the deeper level mistakes. So that means you kind of need a specialist, right?
Right.
But then there are people who do everything from developmental editing or what are the other
Substantive.
names? Yeah,
Substantive.
substantive editing,
Yeah, or
um,
structural editing. Some people call it structural
structural.
editing.
Yeah, whatever. There's a bunch of different names for it, and that's the unfortunate thing is there's not really a set name for things. But I like developmental editing because it seems to
It kind of
encapsulate what
fits.
you're
Yeah.
doing. And basically that's your developing the story still. So I'm not right then at that time, we're not worried about grammar and punctuation, stuff like that, because all that stuff's going to change because you're going to literally rewrite parts of the book as a part of the process,
Right.
probably. Right. You're really going to do some major changes because there's things wrong with your plot, there's things wrong with your characters, things like that that we need to fix before we worry about grammar and punctuation, stuff like that. So developmental editing. But developmental editing is one of those things that Stacey and I both are like, really it's better to do a manuscript evaluation and then you go back and fix that. Right. Now, sometimes that's not possible. I understand. So I still have people that come to me for developmental edits. That's great. That's wonderful. Love them, all that type of thing. But like there are probably some better ways to get that kind of advice without spending, because that's the most expensive type of edit. But the thing that I have with that is like, unless someone's a pretty experienced author and pretty experienced editor, they're probably not that good at developmental editing.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be someone who really truly understands story and can really break that down for you. So even though that's the most expensive type of editing, and it's the type of editing that you should really only need a few times in your author career, and then you should be able to move beyond that. But that really requires someone with experience, right? So there's not a lot of new developmental editors unless they've come up through the editing processes and become a developmental editor over time, right? But there's
Right.
not very many that are people that are new at it, that are really good at it. Um, but and then there's okay, how do we
Then
want to go
there's
down?
copy editors or line
Copy and
editors.
line editing, copy and line
Mhm.
editing, which is basically just
That's your technical editor.
yeah, your
That's
technical
your
editing.
they're doing a lot of times they're doing, your grammar line, the grammar punctuation, capitalization. They're doing your syntax, word choice, making sure your idioms aren't getting mixed up. They're checking your genre. Usually they want to make sure that your
Hmm.
genre is going to be consistent with your language. They're more of your technical editor.
Hmm.
I consider this my geeky lens. When I put on my copy editing lens, I'm literally sentence diagramming as I go. And
Hmm.
and what's funny about this is I still to this day I think it's so backwards, but developmental editing is a fast read for me. Usually, when I'm going through a developmental edit, I am looking at that chapter, I'm looking at it and going, oh my gosh, okay, how does this fit in the story? And how does this story fit in the story? And how does this arc fit in the story? And and I can read through and do a developmental edit and then kind of break things down. It's time consuming in that it's just the analytical part of it all, but it's
Hmm.
not as time consuming for me personally as a copy edit. And the reason is because when I take down a sentence that
Yeah.
says something to the effect of like, oh, let me just pick a sentence. Let me pick a sentence. Let's just do this. I'm going to show you exactly how this works. The gamekeepers appeared early on the first day. Simple sentence, right? I'm sitting there going, okay, who's the subject? Subject is the gamekeepers. Gamekeepers, what? They appeared. They appeared when? Early, early. Do I want to say earlier, earlier appeared, or do I want to say appeared early? Is that making sense? That makes sense. Okay, on the first day. Well, on the first day, the gamekeepers appeared would sound just as good. Do we want to say that? Or is that going to fit it? That's what I'm doing when I'm copy editing. That's one
Hmm.
sentence, people. And I'm sitting there and I'm doing that. So when I tell people I take a copy edit and they're saying, well, you're just reading a book, aren't you? No, I'm not. I'm looking
No,
at your sentences
no.
and I'm saying, okay, how does this fit within the language and flow of your sentence of your story? Does it fit with the genre?
Hmm.
Is it going to roll off the tongue or the brain for your reader? And does it make sense? And it usually takes me about, I can read maybe 10 pages, maybe an hour. It's a slow read. It's a slow read. What's really interesting about that whole process too is that it, it's not easy, and a lot of people think, well, I did good in English.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
No, that has nothing to do with it. In fact, I've gotten into it with a couple of English teachers before because they thought they knew, well, I teach English in high school. Well, that doesn't mean shit to me. Sorry, excuse my
Hmm.
French, but the reason it doesn't is because how many books have you published in this genre? Like, do you read the genre?
Right.
Do you understand the language? Do you understand the flow? Do you understand the syntax? It's not just, it's the publishing standards too. Publishing standards are totally different. Chicago Manual of Style is totally different than APA. Do you know
Hmm.
what style book we're using? Are you familiar with the style books? Are you familiar with your readers and their style choice? I
Hmm.
mean, for example, I have this is a great story. One of these days we're going to do a fun one of this. I'm going to bring this guy on. It is so funny. The heat that comes from his neck when I have this conversation with him. But one of my clients is a very well-respected, brilliant attorney. How many times have we talked about attorneys who are authors? Anyway,
Or novelist. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
this brilliant, somewhat on the spectrum type individual who is intimidatingly smart for me. Like when I get in conversations with him, he is talking way over my head much of the time. One day he contacted me and said, Stacey, I need you to tell me why I can't use an interrobang in my book.
Oh,
And we had
oh.
the most heated discussion about why an interrobang is not a
Oh,
valid punctuation mark. And it was the funniest damn thing because this poor man, who, by the way, is salt of the earth, wonderful human, got off of that phone call with me and was so angry for days that one, he didn't want to talk to me, and two, his wife was worried about his mental health. It was
oh,
so funny. It's funny now, but it's one of those things where if I get into it with a lawyer like that over a punctuation mark, when an English teacher doesn't understand the nuances of publishing standards and they let something like an interrobang slide, what are they doing for you as the author? Are they giving you a leg up, or what are they doing? Are they knocking you down in credibility? You have to know
right.
what you're doing.
Well, yeah, and because part of it, so here as an example of that, like I do not typically edit epic fantasy. Now,
Yep.
why? First of all, because I don't read it
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really like it that
Mm-hmm.
much. So what I'm going to try to do with your book unconsciously, like subconsciously, is I'm going to try to make it better according to my genre standards that have nothing to do with the publishing standards for epic fantasy.
Right.
I'd be a horrible epic fantasy editor. But as a mystery thriller editor, I do exceptionally well.
Yeah.
But here's also there's things that like when you talk about interrobangs, I mean, oh my God, first of all, don't get me started on interrobangs. But like simple things like semicolons. Like
Right.
I got in this discussion
I
with an
love the
author,
fight with the semicolon. I love it. I can dig into
and
that one.
well, and here's the thing about it. Okay, in certain fiction or in certain instances, it's okay, but most of the time in genre fiction, it's not okay. And the reason is it has nothing to do whether it's grammatically correct or not. It has nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is the average reader who's reading genre fiction doesn't know what to do with a semicolon. A comma means pause. A period means stop. A question mark means a question mark. An exclamation mark, somebody's yelling or excited about something. But especially in dialogue, the
Mm-hmm.
average reader doesn't know what to do with a semicolon. Do I pause? Do I stop? Is this a little bit longer stop? A little bit longer pause? They don't know what to do with it, right? It's distracting from the prose itself.
Right.
So it's not about whether it's grammatically correct in that instance or not. It's about what happens when the reader comes to that punctuation mark because it throws them out of the story, which is exactly what you don't want to happen, right? So that's the way I framed it. Like I was having an argument with this gal, again, English teacher, similar type thing. She goes,
Yeah.
a semicolon belongs there. And I go, absolutely, if I'm writing an essay for your sophomore English class. But if I am publishing this for the average reader on Amazon, I said, how many of your students know what a semicolon does and where it goes? And all of a sudden she was
You just
like your
say,
students
listen,
struggle with
just put
it.
a full stop there.
Yeah,
Just put a
your
full stop.
students sometimes it's a full stop, sometimes it's a comma. And you say that's a comma splice. And I say, yep, it sure is.
Yep.
But in
Well,
this instance,
in
in
dialogue, it's
dialogue,
different. Yeah.
it's
In
different and
dialogue,
it
it's
works.
different.
And the reason is when you tell an English teacher like that, how many of your students struggle with it? She goes, well, almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
How many of your readers were once English students in a sophomore English class?
In fact,
A lot.
the average reader in America is a ninth grade reading level. Just
Right.
keep that in mind, guys. The
It's just that
average
simple.
reader.
But anyway, I mean, bringing that back to editing is just, it is our job as editors to know
Right.
that the average reader is a ninth grade level. If depending upon your genre, that they may even be younger than that. There's a certain
Mm-hmm.
group of people that is likely to read your genre and
Mm-hmm.
understand your particular genre. And we know that because we
Mm-hmm.
have to. That's our job is to keep in touch with
Right.
the industry and to know these things, not just to keep in touch with the latest grammar and punctuation things out of Chicago Manual of Style.
No,
Love
which by the
Chicago
way,
Manual of Style,
yeah,
right? But it
that
doesn't matter.
it
It
throws me
it
off. But
yeah, because it
I
doesn't
will
matter.
say it
But
doesn't
yeah,
matter. It doesn't matter.
Anyway,
It does. Okay, let me put it this way. To the publishing world, the publishing professionals, the librarians, it matters. But
yes.
to the readers in general, it doesn't. So you have to know, and this is one of the reasons why I'm going to put this in here, although making sure that your editor is a good fit for your project. Because
Yes.
if you're an author who comes in and you're like, okay, I just want this book to be a legacy. I just want to have a published book. Do you have any goals for it? No, I don't want to be on any bestseller list. No, I don't care if I'm in the bookstores. No, I don't care if I get any awards. Okay, if that's the case, then you know as an editor where you're focused and you know how to apply these standards that we're talking about. But if an author comes to you and says, I want to be on a bestseller list, I want to get some book awards for this thing, I want to get some credit. Okay, then you know you have to level up a little bit. You have to know, okay, the
Mm-hmm.
publishing standards for this genre are going to be at this level. We need to make sure that we have the grammar level up to that snuff, because otherwise the people who read your book in those type of snobby, because they are snobby, those
Mm-hmm.
snobby organizations, they're going to look at your grammar and they're going to, well, the editing in this is crap, I'm not even going to give it an award.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know, your editor has to know where your project is and what your project goals are, not just what your goals are, but what your project goals are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about their experience and whether or not they know these things, but it's also about whether or not they understand it enough to help you fit in the market that you're trying to fit into.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to look for, like Troy said, somebody who's niched enough to know what they're doing. One of the things that, Chris Iris, I will always credit her for this amazing advice. But early on in my business, she came along and she was giving us a lecture at one of our luncheons one time. And she said, you need to niche yourself down to a specialist. And I was terrified because I was early in the business. And I thought, if I niche myself down and I cut off these other avenues of things that I say I can do, then what I'm doing is I'm preventing myself from making that money or that income in
Mm-hmm.
those extra work. And she was adamant that I needed to niche myself down. When I
Mm-hmm.
finally did that, guys, folks, when I finally did that, I had more work than I could deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like all of a sudden I was like so busy because people knew that I knew what I was doing, and they could find me. Like, and that's just
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. That's one of the reasons why Troy is always doing what he's doing, because he is a doctor of books. Like, he understands the plot and he understands it well enough that
Mm-hmm.
people will call him for that experience and that knowledge. He has the cred to get that job done. So when you're looking for editors with experience, you're going to actually look for not only their experience and what they do, but also look for their experience in your genre. Um,
Right.
I drew the line at smut novels, and I drew the line at I call them smut novels for a reason, because sorry guys,
Yeah.
when you start talking about the size of the penis, I think it's hilarious. But yeah, so I don't do it. I can't even. There's not enough words in the thesaurus to make that make sense for me. But there are great editors in my team that can do that. So
Mm-hmm.
when again, when you're looking for editors and maybe you come across my name in a Google search, if I'm a single lone editor and I say I do everything, that's the red flag. But if you're like coming to Print to Pro and I say I have someone on my team that can edit that book, then that's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
However, here's where we're going to talk about this little red flag slash. There is an editor. I don't remember her name, but oh my gosh, guys, gals, there is an editor out there that she has the worst reputation of any editor I've ever met in my life, and she's getting blasted all over TikTok and all over the internet. She is literally tanking her whole life. And it's because she's doing some really, really horrible things. She gaslights her clients. She's got a horrible reputation. But one of the things that she does that's very, very interesting is she says she has a team of
Mm-hmm.
editors, but you don't know who that team is. And
Mm,
so, um, I call that a red flag. So when you come on a Print to Prose website and you say, and I say, I have a team of editors, you can see who my team is. I've got them. I've got their names and faces on my page. And I even have some that are not featured there, but if I need to reach into them, I'm going to tell you who they are and how you can go check them out. Because all of my editors are people that I know and love and trust and recommend. If you go to an editor and they say, I have someone on my team to handle that, and you say, who is that person? And they don't give you a name or a website to go check out, tell them, thank you very much. I'll keep on looking. Um,
mm-hmm.
if someone's not transparent with you about their process, if they're not transparent with you about their contract, if they're not transparent with you about their rates, then these are all things that you need to be afraid of. And so check the credentials, check the references, check the rates, and be clear with all those expectations. Make sure that you have everything out on the table and there's no hidden anything. If somebody
Mm-hmm.
starts to sound like they're being a little shady, or they're not giving you the information, or you're asking a question and they're not giving you a clear answer, or if you say, can you clarify that, and they just kind of like run away, you can't run away fast enough. um so let's talk a little bit about that, Troy, because there are some things that you mentioned about like seeing what they've done. And right now it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, I mean, I have a portfolio page where you can see that the books, and people have asked me, like, can you show me what it looks like when you format these books? And I'm like, yeah. And so I can show them interiors
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. But I don't do sample edits very often anymore. Do you do sample edits?
No, not for free. And well, and there's a lot of reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I understand why people do them as well. Um, but I don't do them. And the reason is because for a while there, not as much lately, but for a while there, I got inundated with people asking for those
Mm-hmm.
because so many editors were doing, well, I'll edit 1,000 words for you or 1,500 words for you or whatever for free, which I kind of understand. But the problem for me is that that is not a representative edit of your book.
Right.
Typically you're going to pick that particular piece. It's going to be from a certain part of your book. It's going to be, so I mean, really for me, if I was going to do that, I'd be like, I'm going to pick a random passage from the middle of your book
Mm-hmm.
and edit it for you. That's the way I would do a sample edit, because I'm not going to have you give me 1,500 words you want me to edit, because it's not. And I mean, I understand people are trying to compare different editors by giving everybody the same thing, right, and having them edit it. That's just not the way I work. But so I don't do sample edits anymore, but I will give you examples of books that I've
Mm-hmm.
edited. I will give you references to
Mm-hmm.
authors, to other editors, whatever the case may be, whatever you need. If you know, I mean, for the most part, because I've been doing this so long, most people that come to me already know something about me before they
Right.
even arrive. Um, but I mean, it's possible, get somebody new, whatever. Um, but yeah, I don't do that. But it is not necessarily a bad idea, especially if somebody's new and they say, well, I don't have that many examples of books that I've edited. Well, then will you do a sample edit? Gives and see what they do. The but I think, geez, I think almost more important than a sample edit is an interview with the person.
There you go. Yeah.
And here's why. I had a client that I really like, I love her story. I
Mm-hmm.
really hoped that we would be a fit, but when we tried to work together, like it just didn't work.
Right.
It just, our personalities did not coincide. The way she wanted to do things, the way I wanted to do things did not coincide. Still like her story, still wish her the best, but it was one of those where then she came back to me a while later and said, hey, can we try again? And I'm like, sure, but the way I do things hasn't changed. This is still the way I do things, right? And then it still didn't work, right?
Right.
And it's so it's okay. right? But because partly what you need to see is if you fit with that person's editing style and the way that they approach your book and the way that they approach your story and the way that you even can talk about things. There are some clients, like I have one client, and he's got this science fiction thing he's been working on forever. And we go back and forth with it on a regular basis. Then he'll disappear and rewrite it for a bunch of things. And then he'll come back again and, stuff like that.
I have a
And it's
client like
always this
that.
thing. But what's cool about it is we can geek out when we talk about the science behind his science fiction. We can geek out about the various different things about his book. Now, it may take this guy forever to get this book done because of the type of things that he's trying to do and the personality that he has and stuff like that. It may take a long time for that book to get done, which is not normally what I like to do, right?
Hmm.
But because we share some things in common and we can just have conversations, and those conversations are generally very helpful to him,
Right.
right? Then, and hey, I have fun doing them too, right? And then we can work together that way. So I think it's more important that you work with the personality of the editor in some ways as much as
That's
it is,
great.
because almost any editor that is competent can do a copy edit for you and do a decent job. Now, developmental is a different thing because even though I was just going to say, when you were talking about how that takes you less time, I'm
Hmm.
like, in some ways, you're right. It's a developmental edit is generally a quicker read, depending upon what I'm trying to do. If I'm really breaking
Well,
it
yeah,
apart
if
and
we're really
redoing the
breaking it down, it
structure,
could take months.
then it takes a longer period of time. But it depends on what I'm doing.
Right.
But the initial read, at least for like a manuscript evaluation or whatever for a developmental edit, is generally pretty fast, and a copy edit is longer. But what you're really paying for in the developmental edit is
Is experience.
years of
Hmm.
learning and college courses and
And
casual
not only
courses
that, just the ability
and
to teach. Because when you're doing a developmental edit,
mhm,
you're not just taking a
editing your
manuscript and
teaching.
like saying, oh yeah, there's this is the one thing that I find really, really interesting about editors who say they developmental edit is when they grab a manuscript, they say, this is wrong. You have no character arc here. But then the author is going, what does that mean?
Yeah, so what do I do about that?
And so what do I do? And how do I fix it? And then you have an editor that says, well, go figure it out. That's not, to me, that's a pointless developmental edit. If you have a
Hmm.
developmental editor that can come along and say, you have a character arc here that's missing, let's sit down and have some jam sessions where you and I can discuss how to build this character arc into your story.
Yes.
That's valuable. And it's also an editor who's willing to work with you on the level of communication that works for you, you know.
Right.
And like Troy said, sometimes it doesn't work for some authors. We just worked with an author um who just published and is an amazing author, and has a health issue right now that is very limiting, right? And he's lost the ability to use a keyboard at this point, and he was really struggling. And one of the things that he came to us with is, I know that I need help. I want this book to publish before, I think I'm just going to have to shelve it because at this point I can't do anything. And Troy and I looked at him and said, we're going to help you figure this out. We're going to make this happen.
Hmm.
And so we were willing to work with him and get it so that we could help him have this book published. And we did everything we could. In fact, I still meet with him. I'm meeting with him tomorrow to help him get his direct sale book links, because he
Oh
can't
yeah.
he can't do those kinds of things, and I can help him do that. There are editors out there that can help you to the level that you need help. It is not helpful if you're paying 3 cents a word for somebody to tell you there's something wrong with your book. If you're paying
Well,
3 cents a
yes.
word, make sure that you're getting
Oh,
the level of work and help that you need. And Troy is right. You want to make sure that you understand, one, their processes, but two, that interview will tell you whether or not you guys jive. There have been
yeah.
many times where I've sat down with an author and I'm like, oh, this isn't going to work out because we don't
Hmm.
have the personalities that will work together. Because you don't want a
Hmm.
dictator. You're not looking for somebody to tell you, no, you can't have that semicolon. Yes, you have to have that semicolon. Like, the best editors out there respect you as an author, respect the story and the perspective that you have, and they respect your voice and they respect your vision. And if they don't
Right.
if they don't respect those things, if they don't look at you in the eyeballs and say, I can get behind your story, you and I can be best friends, that if you don't feel that level of camaraderie with your editor, I don't know if that's going to be a good fit for you,
Yeah,
because
because
you kind of get naked with your reader.
and because the toughest thing about developmental edits especially is preserving author voice.
Yes.
And in some ways it's true of copy edits as well.
Oh, no, it's
Each
very
author has
true.
their own unique
They have their own
voice,
voice, their
right? And
syntax,
so
their
if
voice.
you
Yeah.
are just rearranging sentences constantly,
Mm-hmm.
then you're taking away the way that they come through, the voice that comes through the writing that
Yep.
they do. So you have to be careful about that. At the same time, if their voice is like, if America's Got Talent, if their voice is not great and they ain't got no talent, at some point you have to help them out with that, right?
Well, yeah, but
Sometimes
you
the
can
author
fix
needs
it.
some singing lessons,
Yeah.
right? But it doesn't mean singing lessons means I get you to sing on pitch, not on my pitch,
Yeah, I'm not,
right?
and not
You
only
know what I
that,
mean?
you're not lip syncing to my voice.
Yeah,
That's
you're
the
not
other
lip
thing.
syncing. It's
We're not
not
gonna be
Milli
lip
Vanilli,
syncing. Yeah, we're not
yeah.
Milli Vanilli here.
I mean, because that was one of the things, like with the author that we just talked about, like one of the things in my mind the entire time was preserving his voice. Like
Right.
he had a unique voice and a unique approach to things. Yes, we had to rearrange some things. Yeah, there was a lot of work to be done, but the message, the core message and the core voice needed to stay the same.
Right.
Now, so what that meant is that in this particular case is that we put in extra time
Mm-hmm.
and extra care because I care. I'm not going to take on your story if I don't care about it because I
Right.
care
Right.
about the author and I care about the story,
Right.
right? So if you've just written some dribble thing that I don't care about, that doesn't evoke any emotion in me, more than likely I'm not going to take on your project,
Right.
right? I love editing romance. And people always look at me like, oh my God, I can't believe, because they're like, because that's where I started, was our digital first
Yeah.
romance publisher, right? But
Right.
part of it too is what I love is bringing the emotion of the story.
Right.
So I love stories that have an emotional impact. I try to write stories, even my noir and dark thriller type stuff, that has an emotional impact on you, where there's an emotion, there's a moment when you're crying with the protagonist.
Yeah.
You're like this, or you're realizing like, man, that is absolutely tragic. Like it hurts, right?
Right.
That's what I'm looking for, right? So super enjoy romance because romance writers have this figured out because they're writing the same formulaic stuff a lot of times over and over, but the characters are different. The characters are what matters, and you get to know those characters, and you have an emotional investment in them. And if they don't have emotional investment in their characters, I can teach them and show them how to do that and how to get the reader so invested in it that anybody is going to pick up their book and read it, whether they're a romance fan or not, because they're invested in who these people are
Right.
and their relationship, right? So I love doing that. So, and a lot of that is preserving what your message is and what your voice is, what your theme is, what your premise is, all that kind of stuff.
What your
Anyway,
goals are.
and what your
And
goals are,
yeah.
absolutely.
If an editor
So,
doesn't ask you those questions, like where do you want to go with this book? What is this book wanting? What do you want this book to do for you? What do you hope? Like if you don't get those questions from your editor, those are that's damaging. That's very damaging, because you could be just like Troy said, you could be sitting with an editor who, one, doesn't care, and two, doesn't have any direction or way to, point your book. It could do you a
well,
lot more harm than good.
and I mean, so we've been focused very much on editors, and
Mm-hmm.
okay, before we move on to other couple other things, I'll just talk about proofreaders really quick
Mm.
and say that proofreading is another kind of editing, but proofreading really should not be changing your author voice or anything
Oh
about your
no, it's
story.
just typos, guys.
Proofreading is grammar, punctuation, typos, spelling, name consistency,
Spaces, formatting.
things like that, formatting, basic stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same with, but formatting, we'll talk about formatting in a minute because formatting is not the same.
Mhm.
Proofreading is making sure there's no typos and no
No. I think
errors,
proofreaders could even
but
look at your formatting to make sure that your formatting is
they
consistent.
can
They can look at
make
that
sure
kind of
it's
stuff.
consistent. But
Hmm.
formatting, when you're talking about interior formatting should be it. So there's two ways to go with interior formatting. The first way is just straightforward. Make sure it looks like a book, like a professional book should. Every chapter header has a one or a chapter number or chapter title on it. And it's,
there are
you
some
know,
standards
there's
though.
some standards, right? Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you got to have them to a professional standard, but make sure it looks like a professionally
Right.
formatted book. But then there is formatting that through fonts and through like the type of heading styles and things like that actually vibes with the emotion of your book. So you
Hmm.
have choices, right, in that area. And so it's more than just making sure that the book looks and meets a certain professional standard and adding a certain amount of emotion and flair to
I
the
will say,
formatting that matches your writing.
I'm just going to throw this out here because I think that maybe was misunderstood. But what I mean by proofreading, there's a pre publishing proofreader, and then there's a post.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
So I would
Okay.
say that there are two different types of proofreaders. They could be the same one, they could be the same person, but this is what I like to do when I have a pre proofreader. This, like Troy said, they don't really require a lot of. You don't really. That's a good job for an English teacher. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
The proofreader
Yes.
and I've had some English teachers come in behind me and find some amazing, like, have
Hmm.
amazing catches, and I love it. I'm very happy with them. Never will complain. Also, an editor who's willing to admit mistakes, guys, number one, that is awesome.
Oh, yeah,
This is a
please.
good question to ask in your interview. If I find that you've made a mistake, how would you feel about that as the editor? Like, ask the editor if they ever have been called on the carpet with a mistake that they've made and how they handled that. It's a really good
Hmm.
question to ask because you will find some really good red flags just in asking that question. The reaction that you get immediately will tell you 100 things about your editor.
Hmm. Well,
Hands
and if you
down.
ask them what's the worst one you've ever
um,
made, because like I have
there's some good
stories.
ones.
Like I have a story. Okay, this is a true story. And it's a terrible story, but I worked at a museum, right? And we had worked a lot on the interpretive language and stuff like that in the exhibits at the museum, things like that, making sure everything was just spot on and as perfect as it could be. And we had, a gal who was like, she was an excellent proofreader. She would catch typos and all kinds of other stuff.
Mhm.
And then we had me, I'm doing the big overall writing and the substantive stuff and stuff like that. And we're gearing this because there's a few different types of museum visitors. So we're trying to gear it towards all of them and stuff
Mhm.
like that. And then we had this old wooden sign out front that basically invited people into the museum, right?
Okay.
And one of the things on that sign was it said free restrooms, free restrooms. So, and I think you've heard this story before, right?
No, I
So,
haven't. I'm just
so,
making all kinds of assumptions.
so we create this sign that we have printed, and it has our new logo, which we created on it. It's really cool looking. It's bright yellow, got this blue lettering, super inviting, and on the bottom it says free public restrooms, right?
Okay.
We put the sign out there the first day. We're very excited that we've got this new sign. All these people, and I mean, I'm talking about brilliant people that I worked with in the museum world, brilliant people, and me. So we'll throw me in there, right? And we have all
Okay.
looked at the sign. We all looked at the design before it went to the printer. We all looked at
Oh
it.
dear.
The printer looked at the design as well. Now, maybe they didn't proofread it, maybe they didn't, but they at least looked at it.
Okay.
Within 5 minutes of the sign being outside, a lady comes in and she says, "Hey, is that thing on your sign a joke?" And I went, a joke. What on our sign would be a joke? And the sign said, I kid you not, free pubic restrooms. There was no L.
Oh no.
It was like Christmas. There was no L.
There was no L.
And I mean,
Oh
it was extremely
no.
embarrassing. So, of course, we had to pull it in, put out the old wooden shitty sign, and while we had the other one reprinted.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Now, I mean, so right. So here's the thing, though. Like, if you have 100,000 word book,
Mm-hmm.
and there are 20 typos in that
Mm-hmm.
book,
Oh, you're well
that
within the.
is 98% accuracy.
Mm-hmm.
You would, if your kid came home with a 98 on their test, there's no way you'd go, oh, get out of my house. Can't, right?
Right.
But so editors and authors both, because we're in this together, are held to an impossibly high standard.
Mm-hmm.
So if your editor does not admit to having made a mistake at some point in their career, and sometimes a big one, like
Uh-huh.
on a sign, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, right? Then first of all, they're deluding themselves and they're
Right.
deluding you,
Right.
right? They're
Yeah.
deceiving you.
It's a red
They have
flag.
made mistakes. They've made
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. We have all made mistakes. Some of them bigger than others, but we've all made mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're like I think Nick with his wordsmith writing coaches, he basically says you have a no typo guarantee. If you find a typo within the first, I don't remember how many, and he said he gives you like 3 times. Then he
Mm.
goes, we'll just take your book back and we'll not only fix that typo, but we'll have someone re-proofread it for you.
Wow.
Right. So like it doesn't, he's not re-editing it, anything like that, but somebody just reads through it and says, okay, let's make sure we didn't miss any other typos or anything like that. And somebody that
Right.
hasn't, just a different proofreader reads through it and just make sure that there's no other typos. Right. Well, that's an awesome guarantee. That's probably better than the guarantee that most people will be like, yes, if you find a typo, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's mine.
But he goes, okay, well, proofread your book. Right.
Wow.
Okay, that's wonderful. And that'll catch most mistakes, but I can almost guarantee that there are times when that person fixes the typo, rereads and reproofs the book, and there's still a
Finds another
typo in there.
typo. And you know what? You know what's
It's almost
funny?
inevitable. And it's
It's
okay because
inevitable.
most readers don't, unless they're really egregious, most readers don't notice them.
We all, oh,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, they all get through. In fact, I could pick up boys on the boat right now and boys in the boat,
Mm,
and I find 5 typos. I mean, it's just, yeah. And not
yeah.
only that, but here's the thing, here's the other thing that I always love to point out is that edits are subjective, especially
Hmm.
nowadays.
Hmm.
What I find, like Troy and I said, we can argue about semicolons all day, and someone can turn around and say there's supposed to be a semicolon right there, that is a comma splice, or that should be this word, not this word, or you should be
Hmm.
spelling gray with the EY, not an AY. Whatever that is. um Guys, there is no rule so firm in the publishing world that you can't, as an author, change that rule for your book. So just be aware that if you worked with an editor that is like I said, a dictator and says, absolutely, I will not bend on this rule, and they're not even willing to defend it to you, just line in the sand, I'm not willing to listen to anything you have to say, that's probably not going to be a great editor for you, because again, style books are style books, and that's very much what they are, is they're just your style book. But in the
Yeah.
case of like Interrobang, I was dying on that hill, but it was so funny. And the reason my client and I are still really good friends, and I respect the hell out of the guy, is because he and I were willing to go to that mountain and have that discussion. And
Hmm.
he was able to, he was as a lawyer would, defend yourself, like, okay, here I go. And I had to defend myself on that mountain against this very, very smart
Well,
person. But
and let
it's
me throw something else.
it's great. It's a
Oh,
great conversation.
it is great. I love it when authors push back because it tells me that you're engaged in your story as well.
Yep. Yep.
But let me throw something else out there, and this is another thing that I will defend forever. is the fact that if you write a compelling enough story, I won't even notice the typo in it.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed about
Your
Michael
readers,
Grant.
if you're writing an incredible story,
Nobody cares.
your readers will be so
They'll
engrossed
forgive
in the
you.
story, their brain will correct the word automatically and it won't matter.
They'll
If you're
forget
getting a
you.
bunch of people that are emailing you about typos, especially in a certain section of your story, it probably means that part of your story is not as engaging as it could be.
That's true.
Right, that's part of it. Um, but oh man, this is a topic we could talk about probably 4 times. But the other part of this is like, so even when you're looking at formatters, right, you're looking at formatting from whether you want to do the cheapest thing or
Mm-hmm.
whether you want to do something that really enhances your book. So, like Stacey said, there is a post formatting proofreader.
Mm-hmm.
The post formatting proofreader is really the one that's making sure that when we typeset the book, which we all do digitally now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when we typeset the book, that we do it correctly and don't introduce any errors at that
Right.
point after it's already been edited.
Like strange
Right. Strange
spaces,
little, sometimes symbols,
characters.
whatever
Yeah.
strange characters or symbols appear, whatever the case may be. It happened for a while with Vellum, where a couple things would get changed in the formatting process, in the import process, and you wouldn't necessarily spot them right away, things like that. So that person can look for formatting consistency, and your formatting can be as simple or as complex as you want it to be
Right.
to either just be
And
professional or enhance your book.
mm-hmm.
Either way, right? Whatever you want to do, doesn't really matter. But anyway, so but you still need to vet that formatter, see what books they formatted. I mean, I had a client come to me who she was practically in tears because she was trying to format her book herself, couldn't do it, just couldn't get it
Mm,
done. And she really just wanted the simplest formatting that I could imagine. And I thought, but she was just really struggling. So I fixed it within an hour. And she was like, this is absolutely amazing. And the formatting I gave her was not amazing.
right.
It was good. It
Right.
was solid, but it was not one of my amazing formatting jobs where I
Yeah.
took this thing and I formatted it in just an amazing way, right? It just wasn't. So, but it didn't matter to her because that's what she wanted, right? So it's
Right.
more a matter of like, what do you want and what works for you, right? That's
I will point at this too. Book designers are not book formatters. I will point that
oh
out.
yeah.
Book designers have a level up on book formatters. I can format books all day long. I can do it nice and I can do it even more complex. But there are times, like especially with nonfiction books, that get a little bit complex with charts and designs of,
Hmm.
subheads and pull out quotes, and you can get all kinds of fancy with that kind of formatting. When I'm going to go crazy with formatting like that, I step away from that designing aspect and I go to my girl Tara at T Berry
Hmm.
Creative. She knows how to format a book and she knows how to make it beautiful. In fact, right now we're working on a pair of coffee table books for an amazing lady that works out of northern Nevada, out of Carson City and Tahoe area. And she is kind of like she's like the leading authority on ghost towns in the West. And she is phenomenal at her picture taking abilities, and then she preserves and she works at preserving these ghost towns. And she's doing a coffee table book set about these ghost towns around the Sierra Nevadas, and they're beautiful. I could take her pictures and throw them in a format and basic format, and voila, there you go. And I can even show you a book that I bought that probably was done just like that. This book here, Ghost
Oh
Towns of
yeah.
Idaho. I don't know who
Yep.
did this, but I'm pretty sure it
I
was
have that book.
self-published. Do you
It
really?
was, yeah, it
Yeah.
was self-published.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I mean,
I know a little bit of
pretty
the story, but yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty basic. It's a pretty basic book, but this woman doesn't want this book. She wants what she wants is she wants a book like this, which
Right.
is like
Oh yeah,
like
David Arday. Yeah,
this.
he's
I
amazing.
mean, like this is a book that's just amazing and amazing photos.
Right. Well,
She so
oh,
you want a book designer. That's different. You have to vet these people because
like,
they have graphic
yes, and
artistries. These ones, nah, not so much. So
you
really
have to
know your
know what you
project.
want, right?
Right.
Because, like, I have done book design, right, for specific types of books.
Right.
Both of them for sports books is what I've done,
Mm,
right? One of them was a soccer book, the other was a running
I
book,
remember those
right?
books. Yeah.
And it was very, very hard to, both of them were very difficult to do, like very
Right.
challenging to do. But I was able to do them, right? Because I had the
Hmm.
skill set to do that. But it's not my
Right.
favorite thing to do. But I can also tell you it was not cheap.
Right.
Like, because, and so if you have a regular fiction book, like, I am not going to
You're just
take
doing
one
a
of my
novel.
Max Boucher
Yeah.
thrillers and
And turn it into
give it
this.
to somebody to do that, right?
Yeah.
Or I'm not even going to design it that much myself because
Yeah.
it doesn't need it, because the readers don't
The
care.
readers don't
So the
care.
other thing is, think about what your readers care about. So your
Hmm.
readers, especially if you're writing epic fantasy, maybe they do care about the diagrams and the maps and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And if I publish my Solitaire series and I put a map of Las Vegas in there, people are going to be like, what is wrong with you? I can Google Earth this stuff, right, man? It's a contemporary map. I can go drive down the strip,
Right. Right.
right? They don't need a map, like a
Right.
Google map, right? Whatever. But I can do that, right? So it doesn't matter. So it also depends on what level that you need of formatting and things like that. It's the same thing when we talk about cover design. We'll talk really quick about cover design because I know we got a long time. We're going to
Yeah.
be mainly focused on editing, but cover design is the same thing. People need to know about your genre and what they're creating and what that's for and what you really need and what your readers expect and what is selling on Amazon right now, because you may have
Right.
to change covers every few years simply because the genre changes and what's
Hmm.
expected of covers and the genre changes. If you don't, sometimes your book isn't selling not because it wasn't a great cover back then, but because it's not a great cover now, right?
Exactly.
That type of thing. So there's all kinds of things that you need to take into account when you're looking at a cover designer. But now, especially, you have to look at things like, are they using AI? And if they are using AI, what are they doing with it? Like,
Right.
I have personally never been able to take an AI image with zero human intervention and zero editing and turn it into a book cover.
No.
Never. Now, and
Mm-mm.
I've talked to a lot of illustrators who do use AI for some aspects of cover design, and all of them, it's like using stock photography. You don't take a stock photograph and put it on a cover either without
Right.
editing it, right? It's the exact same thing with AI. 99.999% of the time, you're not going to
Hmm.
get an output from AI that's instantly a good book cover. You're going to
Right.
have to do things to edit it and make it. So you still need a graphic designer for things like the lettering and understanding where that goes. Now, can you learn about that and do a bunch of stuff yourself?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you can. It's not a huge learning curve, but you're going to get what you put into it. Somebody with a graphic design degree and a background that really knows what they're doing is going to take what your idea was and create something that's much, much better,
Right.
right? So, but you need to vet cover designers by what you want. If you have, like, like we talk about the Fantasy Boys, Bob and Todd,
Yeah. Bob and
and
Todd.
their Storm Beneath the Glass. I mean, incredible cover, right?
Oh
Hand
yeah. Beautiful
drawn
cover.
artistry, amazing. Right
Yeah. Let me
now,
show.
that is amazing, right?
That is a
But would I
beautiful
put
cover.
that on one of my thrillers?
No.
Well, probably not. And the reason is it's a different
A
genre.
different
It's a
book. Yeah.
whole different style of book, right? And
Hmm.
if I put a hand-drawn artsy cover on my thriller, people are not going to buy it because it has a fancy cover and it's in the
Hmm.
thriller category. And they're going to go, "What is that cover? We don't even understand that."
Right.
Right? Where in fantasy that all works out really well. So
Hmm.
you have to judge by what you're doing and what your genre is and what your goals are, what you want out of it. Who is going to be judging your book cover? Are you
Hmm.
going to be submitting this book to awards, or is this just one that's a one and done Amazon short? Maybe you create an audiobook of it and that's it, right? Well, okay, that's a different thing. So The same thing with your cover designer is it's all about them knowing your goals and what you're trying to do, and also like just knowing your genre. So your average fantasy cover designer is not necessarily going to be good at designing a thriller or a sci-fi cover or whatever. They're going to have a niche
Yeah,
usually,
they're going to have a niche for
that's based on
sure.
their art style and their
Right.
style of who they are, right? So,
Right.
there's
So,
and
yeah. So
yeah.
that, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that where you're using common sense when you approach these people, but you want to see again, the rule of thumbs for all of these are going to be the same. I would say essentially is the rule of vetting, I guess we should say, is just one, know what you need and know what you're looking
Hmm.
for and know going in that if you're asking for a professional, like a cover designer like this guy who did this, did our fantasy boys, and you're hiring them for their professionalism or their level of experience, and they challenge you on what you're asking them to do because of certain expectations in the industry, and you don't know what those expectations in the industry are, and you're going in blind, then understand and know that that professional either one can take serious advantage of you, or two, you're going to probably butt heads or not understand why they're making certain demands of you as the author. So go in with some knowledge, but first understand what you need from that person. You're going to ask about their experience and their fit, right? You're going to interview these
Hmm.
people, talk to them on the phone. I know for a long time, the millennials had a real big struggle with talking on the phone, but you're all grown-ups now. So talk on the phone. Gen Z, learn to talk on the phone, talk to these people face to face, have coffee with them, be personable. Check their credentials, check their experiences, look at their reviews, look at their, ask them to show you, work examples, and then check those out. Be clear about your expectations. Ask them to be clear about what they expect from you, because this is a two-way street. When I work with my authors, I expect them to provide a manuscript to me in a certain format. I expect them to work with me in a
Hmm.
certain way. I expect them to communicate clearly with me when things are going on. I also expect them to give me some leeway when things go awry, because they always do. We're working with creatives here. And I also want them to understand that I'm going to give them the same courtesy. So, like, that back and forth is really, really good. But here's one that Troy touched on, and that's budget. Budgeting is
Hmm.
something you need to know going in. Know, first of all, what the range is of of quality that you're looking for. Like, so for example, you're not going to go to an editor like Troy and say, I would like you to edit this 70,000 word manuscript, Troy, and I would like you to do it for $300. Troy is going to look at you in the eyeballs and say, okay, well, it was very nice meeting you.
Yeah.
I wish you the very best in your endeavors. Um, I'm not going to be able to do that for you, but I wish you the best. It's the same thing for me. I'm going to look at you and go, well, it was great knowing you. Let me show you how Chat GPT works.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just going to be like that simple. But if you want a person, know going in what that level of expertise and what that level of quality is going to cost, so that you know if you're getting a deal or if you're get taken for a ride. Okay. And then ask the person that you're working with what that entails, what that service entails. If you go into an editor and they say to you, I'm going to charge you $3,000 for this edit, ask them what does that edit, what do I get out of this? What am I going to expect for this
Yeah.
edit?
What does that mean?
What does that
Yeah.
mean? Because some editors for a copy edit specifically, I know that this is one of the reasons why people ask for those samples, is because my copy edit is much more in depth than some other copy editors. I know that for a
Mhm.
fact because I've had people
Same.
show me, like they'll look at
Yeah.
the level of blood that I bleed on a page as opposed to another editor. And it's a different level of blood. So yeah, you need to know what that is. But at the same time, like Troy and I don't do sample edits for free. Somebody wants a sample edit from me, I'm going to pay them probably $200 to $250 just for the sample edit. Because it's just, I'm sorry, that's just, you're paying me to take time away from my other clients who are waiting for me for bigger projects. So you're going to have to pay for that. But anyway, communication, budget, fast and cheap doesn't always mean good. You get what you pay for. Look for that collaborative partner. Look for that person that's going to meld in your process and in your team. Remember that as an indie author, you are a team manager, you are a project manager, you are the general contractor. So you're going to be kind of like managing and wrangling these different heads in your organization, and you're going to have to kind of like juggle those timelines and everything. Make sure that you've got somebody that's going to meld with that process, because if you've got somebody that's like, I'm not bending on this, and you've got the rest of this team going, well, I might have a vacation in October, so I might not be able to get it done that week. It might be this week. And you've got somebody over here that's like, hard line, I'm not doing anything except this week. That might not work for you. So be aware of those things. And then some red flags. These are major red flags. If you hear these, run. Are you ready? Number one, I guarantee ... Guarantee that anytime anyone says guarantee, my ass begins to twitch, because it's like guaranteeing is not anything. This business is, there's no guarantees ever. There's no guarantees. The only thing I can guarantee is that I can't even guarantee I'm going to wake up breathing tomorrow. So like, honestly, the best guarantee I can give you is that I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help you. That's my guarantee. But like Troy said, can we guarantee there's zero typos? Can we guarantee that you're not going to have a bad review? Can we guarantee that you're going to be a bestseller? Can we guarantee that you're going to be on we can't guarantee any of those things. We can't guarantee that your mother's going to like the book. We can't guarantee any of that. So you have got to understand that anytime someone promises you anything, promises you that, guarantees things that you know are variables in this industry that cannot be guaranteed. The algorithms do so much, they wreak so much havoc. You can't get a guarantee about anything right now. So don't believe it at all. The second red flag is anyone who's unwilling to share with you their contract or their processes, or clearly explain their way they do business. Bad. And then someone who refuses to work with you, give you those samples, or help you in some way see their level of quality, or turns around and doesn't respect what you have to say. Those are red flags. Those are the red flags that I have. Those are the red flags that when I'm doing business with anybody, if they're not going to clearly communicate, if they're not going to show me what they're going to do, if they're not going to give me any kind of guarantee, or not guarantee, if they're not going to be clear about what to expect, I immediately get very nervous. Do you know of any other red flags that you would probably give as advice?
Well, the primary things that I say is transparency and communication. And really, it's the same on the author side of things. You'll have authors that do, what I call a drive-by drop-off. I don't get this as much anymore, but they basically drive by in your email, they drop off their manuscript, and they expect to come back and pick it up, and their baby is all well and everything's fine, right? And they don't expect to have to do some work themselves.
Yeah, that's bad.
That transparency and communication goes both ways. I'd like to let you know as much as possible about what's happening during the process, and what that looks like, and what my timeline is, and all of those different types of things. If my timeline has changed for some reason, here's why. This is what's happening, and be as clear as possible. So you need somebody to do that. I mean, on the aspect of guarantees, the only guarantee that somebody can make you is kind of like Nick's, is that, we'll make it right if something goes wrong.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody in the world can guarantee that nothing will go wrong. And what that means is, even if you find a typo later and we fix it, it means that on launch day, your book had typos. Okay, well, welcome to the world of publishing, because everybody's book has typos on opening
On
day,
launch day.
right?
Mhm.
That's just the way it is, right? So I agree with Stacy in that is that nobody can guarantee you perfection. What they can guarantee you is that we will stand behind what we have done,
Right.
right? And we will do our best to make it right, whatever that may look like, right? Um, eh, the other thing is timelines, set realistic timelines and
Yes,
allow your
please.
editors to set realistic timelines.
Please, yeah, and
Don't come
start
to me and
early.
say, I had somebody come to me and say, I want you to do a manuscript evaluation on this book and give me as much feedback as you can quickly because I have it up for pre-order on Amazon. And you guys think I'm kidding. You're laughing. You think I'm kidding. It's
I know you're not
true,
kidding. That's what's
right?
so
It's
funny.
true.
Like it just,
Because
oh,
people
I've
have a
had
weird
these.
expectation that we can just drop and do things like that really
My
quickly. Don't do
favorite
that.
my
Don't do
favorite
that.
one, I had the hardest time not laughing at her. I mean, obviously it didn't work out, but I remember that one time I got a phone call from an author, and she was like, it was like October, and she says I need a copy edit on this. And I said, how many words is it? And she said 95,000 words. And I was like, okay. And she said, I said, okay, well, let me look at my calendar. And she says, well, I want to launch it on December 1st so it can be available for Christmas. And I was like, and it was like October. And I'm like, wait. So we're in a copy edit stage. You want this ready by Christmas for a 95,000 word novel? Like, there's
Hmm.
no way. There's no way. I couldn't even guarantee that really on even a 65,000 word novel or even a 40,000 word novella. And the reason is because one, there's first of all an editor's calendar. Just we're not AI guys. We're real live human people with real live human experience with real life. I mean, we are not, we're giving you expertise. Most of us, well, the majority of us that are actually still in business after some years, we have chops. There's a reason why we do what we do. The reason we have been in the business as long as we have and we have reputations as long as we have is because we've proven ourselves, right? We've been put into the fire and we've come out forged strong, right? Like that's how we are. The thing about that is that means our calendars get full because there's only so many hours in a day. So when you come to us and you say, I want this done by this time, the reason that's so funny is because most of us, even on our slowest years, are still scheduled out months in advance. I know right now Troy is working on a project that will take him through probably January. We're working
Hmm.
on this project and we're going to get like the first phases of it done probably in November. And he's been working on this now for a month and a half,
Yeah.
along with other projects that he's working on. So, folks, like it takes time. That's number one. Number two, there are so many other factors and moving parts in publishing. Just editing is not even the biggest part. Like there are so many other juggled cats that you have to,
Oh,
like the time that happens, there's a lot of things that you can't even control. The release times for once you put a book on a platform, and the release time from the time that it is, the title is set up to the time that it is actually showing up on a website to the time that it actually can go live for readers, there is a set number of time and some variables there that we have zero control over.
well, especially around Christmas. And the other thing is this.
Yeah.
So that project that we're working on, right? That well, the first stage is done in November, but part of that is like I just emailed the team that is also
Mm-hmm.
working on it with us that on their end, on the
Right.
client and things this morning and said, hey, I sent you a bunch of information a week and a half ago. Do you got
Did
it?
you get
What's
it?
going on?
Yeah.
Because now I'm in a position where I'm waiting for them to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want me to turn around edits really fast for something that you want to release in December, what that means is in a few weeks, very short weeks, if I'm going to work on a short deadline, first of all, I'm going to charge you for
Yeah,
that
you're gonna be
to
paid
work on a
premium for
rapid
that.
project, right? You're going to pay a premium for that because you're preempting my time, right? But let's say I allow you to do that because I'm able to do that. I have an opening that I can preempt my time or I can just work some extra time and work on your project. Then in a couple weeks, I'm going to give you back edits and I'm going to say, you need to finish these for me by the end of the following week, or we're not going to make the deadline because I
Right.
can't do it because I can't do it all myself. Right? You are a factor in that as well. I had a client that I did a ghostwriting project for, and he said, I want this done in like 2 months. And I said, how much time can you take off from your business to do this? And he said, well, I can't take time off.
Right.
And I said, well, then we can't do this in 2 months.
No.
Right? Because it's not possible. Okay. Second of all, like Stacey says, there's all kinds of variables in just by the time you submit a book. Plus, you've got to come up with a cover designer unless you've already got one.
Mhm.
Plus, you've got all kinds of other things that you have to do to get a book in place by that. Vincent Zandri and I are doing a Kickstarter relatively soon for a subscription for book blasts, which are short
Oh,
fiction things all throughout next year.
which
Right? It's
means
like a subscription.
yeah, and part of this is I'm doing a cover for you and I haven't finished it.
Oh no, that's for another
Okay.
project. That's not for the
Okay.
book blast. The book
Okay, good.
blast, like, and that's what I'm going to tell you is like the book blast. So we're releasing these all through next year. So we're writing stories ahead of time. But not only
Mhm.
are we writing stories ahead of time, but we've got cover design ahead of time and blurbs ahead of time.
Mhm.
Because why? Because a million things can happen between now and the end of next year. And if we've had a Kickstarter and promised things to people, we have to deliver them. So we have to be ahead of the curve and ahead of schedule, right? We
Mhm.
have to be. It is not an option, right? You as an author need to plan further ahead than that, right? Because otherwise it's not going to work for you, right? It's not going to work out. You're not going to get those things in time for Christmas. There's things I would love to have done in time for Christmas on my own author calendar that are going to come in time for Christmas of 2026 because I there's no way I'm going to get them done by the end of this year. Now there's some other goals that I will accomplish by the end of this year that I'm working on right now, but that's a you know what I mean? Like what most of those though do not depend on me shoehorning myself in at the last minute onto somebody else's calendar. Right? That's not the way that works.
Right.
Like there are some other projects that I'm working on that I know that I would love to get them done super fast, but what it is it's a slow burn because it's on somebody else's timeline.
Right.
And so I have to acknowledge that and work within that. Right. So that's just to let you know, like even as professional authors, when you get to a certain level, I still can't walk into someone's editing calendar and say, give me this now. Like it doesn't work that way. We plan ahead. I don't get to walk into a publishing calendar. It doesn't matter how many books in the Book Blast series that Vincent and I have sold or how many Kickstarters we've done successfully. We can't bypass the system that everybody
Right.
operates in.
Right. Exactly.
Neither can Stephen King, neither can James Patterson.
Nobody
Just doesn't
can.
work.
It doesn't
Nobody
work.
gets to. So yeah, just understand that you've got to plan a timeline for things. So
I'd start
super
early.
it's super funny, but I mean this like I say, and it works with everything. Cover designers, formatters, but especially we've been focused on editors, especially editors.
Mhm.
People's calendars get full. I mean, if you needed a proofread done within the next week, I might be able to find somebody that could do it that fast.
Mhm.
It might be tough though to get
Yeah.
it that quick of a turnaround. Okay, so just anyway, uh,
But
just
I'm gonna
be aware of
I'm
the way
gonna say
things work.
this just more than anything, trust the process because, like Troy said, there are things out there that you cannot control that we can't control. We wish we could, we can't. So just trust that. You said something to me a couple months ago that actually has really stuck, and there's never going to be a publishing emergency that is so
Mhm.
vital. Like you're never gonna get that phone call like it is life or death, this has to happen. My biggest publishing emergency is actually happening right this second. This is the probably the crux of a publishing emergency. I have a client, they have changed the formatting and size of their trim size of their book twice since we've published, and she is in pre-order right now. So can you
Oh,
the headache, right? The headache. She called me this
ooh.
morning. She got her second set of proofs. She called me this morning. She held up her book with all of her other previous books, which, by the way, have been published multiple times in multiple countries. And by the way, there's different trim sizes in different countries that we can't match in the US market.
Mhm.
It's just different. She's saying to me that she's really frustrated because this book doesn't match the trim size. I cannot get it to match the trim size. So she's decided she wants to go back to the original size of the book, which means I have to go back to all the original covers, back to the original size of the formatting and everything. What's really great about this, and I'm being very, very, very facetious, is that tomorrow is her cutoff for her pre-order editing frame. So
so you got to finish it tonight.
So I have to do it tonight because her books, like KDP and everybody says tomorrow is your cutoff. Like they freeze the book about a week before the book launches, to keep you from messing with that file too much in case pre-orders come in and they have to start printing books and sending them out. So they freeze that window. And so that freeze period starts tomorrow. So I literally have to do this book tonight. And I just came off the tail end of a huge project. So of course I'm like going, okay, I'm going to drink some caffeine. I'm just going to work through the night and we're going to get this thing uploaded. So that is probably the biggest of all the publishing catastrophes that could possibly happen. Having a typo that has made it out of print and into the marketplace, not going to kill you. None of these things are going to kill you. Just shy of maybe destroying your relationship with all your readers, which I don't know. I don't think it ever.
Even then,
it would never do it. So
I mean, if the typo is on the cover and it's extremely obnoxious,
and it says free pubic bathrooms, maybe.
Unless that is your story, which could be, anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so that's pretty much it. I think like Troy said, we could break this into 4 or 5. This is a long one, so thanks for sticking it out with us. But I know that this is something that a lot of people have questions about, is like, how in the world do I know how to find a good editor? And these are just things that you need to know. This is true for not just editing. Of course, we can break this down into all different kinds. And in my course in Print Academy, I teach you this into way more detail. I give you like interview sheets. I teach you the criteria for certain genres and things like that. I break this down even more. But just know that for you on the surface, whether or not you don't know how to even begin or where to start, this is a good place to start. If you want more information, you can always reach out to Troy over at the Plot Dude, and you can reach over at me at Print to Pro, and you'll find both of us at Print to Pro as well, because Troy is one of my trusted team members. But if you need anything, we're here to help. And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us today and listening to us rant about this. I know it was kind of a meandering mess, but Troy and I love having these little fly on the wall kind of talks. So we'll talk next week. Probably be hearing from Plot. Are we going to hear
Tara at Novelio?
Novelio. So
yes, I'm in fact
heard from her
this week. And I'll shoot you the link to it before we publish this, but this week I'm dropping a demo of Novelio, kind of an overall demo on my YouTube channel. Then I'll be doing some more in-depth demos of part of it, because I'm doing a series on how to create a series Bible, and plotting things that work for you and help speed up your writing and your revisions. Anyway, I'll be talking about that. And then some of that is going to be a part of my bigger course, the Plot Dude's Guide to Story, which hopefully will be coming within the next 5 to 6 weeks, we hope. But since the dude is moving again, well, we don't know what's happening with that.
Yeah, so anyway, see, you never know. There's no guarantees, right? Things just are always in flux. But
hopefully in time for your Christmas shopping, you'll be able to
yeah, and it may be in time for in time for Author Nation. If you guys haven't already learned about this amazing thing called Author Nation, I want you to go to the Googleverse and Google it and sign up. Author Nation is an amazing opportunity, and it's in Las Vegas this year, and it's November 4th, I want to say. November 2nd or
3rd. I think it's the 3rd. I think the 3rd
through the 7th or
Monday.
something like that.
Yeah, the 3rd through the 7th, and the 7th is Reader Nation. So let me look here really quick so we get this right. It's Monday the 3rd through Friday the 7th. The 3rd is Vendor Day. There are all kinds of trusted vendors like
I'm one of
editors
them.
and different software companies that will be there on Monday. Stacy and I will both be there on Monday. We'll be
Yay.
hanging out. You guys can come see us. The 4th, 5th, and 6th is all really intense conference days. There's also BarCon on those days. Typically, you can find me during normal hours, like dinner hours and stuff like that. You can find me at some local restaurant. If you want to take me to dinner or come to dinner with me, just come and catch me.
Yeah,
I'm
me
happy to
too.
go with you.
I'll probably be on
After dinner,
Troy's
usually
coattails.
until extremely early in the morning, I'm at a bar called Fuel that is just outside of the Horseshoe in Las Vegas. There are more than it is open 24 hours a day, and we are usually there till about 2 or 3 a.m. There's usually quite a group of us. If you want to come and meet presenters and authors and people that you would just like to know and hang out with us, come join us at Fuel. They have 2-for-1 drinks all the time. So it is
Wow.
a dangerous place. But
Hmm.
it's one of my favorites in Las Vegas. So
Okay,
anyway,
well, I might have to
yeah.
hit you up and at Fuel, but yeah, I'm very excited to
Uh,
be there this year. So we would love to see you. Go to authornation.com, I think is their website actually, and register. It is going to be a
oh,
party. I'm
and
very
if you have not
excited.
registered yet, if you register for that, also register for Reader Nation, which is the book signing on Friday. There will be all kinds of authors there. There are about 8 of us that are launching Kickstarter projects that day. Vince and I's book blast will actually launch that day at
Oh,
Reader
very
Nation.
exciting.
James Patterson will be there. He'll probably have a long line, so pop over to mine. It'll be a little bit shorter. And you can interact with me and grab some books and
Yeah,
just stand
for
and chat.
sure.
Love to talk. So yeah, can't wait to see
Yeah,
you guys in the movie.
that would be awesome. So, and again, if you want to get involved in Troy's writer retreat, he's also got that going on. Do you have any more tickets left on
Yes.
that?
We have very few tickets left on that. It is from October 22nd through 26th in Lake Tahoe. If you want to join us, we'll post the link in this video first of
Okay.
all, and hopefully by the weekend there will still be a few seats left for that. But if money is the only factor keeping you from coming, please email myself or Nick Nelson, Troy at theplotabides.com, and we will help you work something out so that you can come. Maybe, I mean, there's some stipulations to that, but we can help you with some discounts and things like that to help you come if money is the only factor keeping you from coming. That obviously
Okay.
means you have to have that time off and be able to get to
It
Tahoe at
is
that time. We
definitely going to be it's a beautiful
can't cover your
house. You should
travel.
definitely come.
Oh,
They're going to have some amazing workshops and a lot of time for you guys to food is provided. I know the cook
uh-huh.
personally. She's amazing.
There will be some signature cocktails also made by the resident bartender.
That's awesome. So yeah,
So
it'll be a
anyway,
lot of
yeah.
fun. So if you're interested in getting away for a little bit of time and to focus on your writing, this would be a great opportunity to do that. Again, thanks again for everybody. Thanks for sticking it out with us. Let us know if there's anything you would like us to talk about specifically. We are happy to accommodate. Going into the Christmas season, we are gearing up for next year, and Troy
Oh
and I are
yes.
very excited about some of the things that we got in the pipe. So I am happy to bring those things up as we kind of get ready for the new year. I'm super stoked. So anyway, let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about specifically about you and your author work, and we're happy to help. Again, like, subscribe, notify all the things. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave us some reviews. We would love to, even if it's a 1-star, any kind of any kind of feedback would be fantastic. But we would really appreciate it. Thanks again, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Yep. See you next time.